Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today is Saturday, May 4th, and this is my weekly wrap-up. First, I finished the fifth of 6 novels that I'm reading in the quarterfinals for the BookTube prize. So I have one novel to go, and so I feel like I'm in a good place in terms of timing. And I will, of course, talk about all 6 of these novels after the judging is complete. But I can say that this has been a really strong round so far. I've read 5 really excellent novels thus far. I also read and reviewed in a separate video Reuven Fenton's debut novel, Goyhood. And I will put a link to this, my video, my review of this book in the notes below. This is a book that is about to come out this month. It will be published on May 28th. It is a delightful debut novel that I highly recommend. I also this week finished my daily poetry shorts, which I was doing each day of the month of April in celebration of National Poetry Month. So I finished those up on Tuesday, and I discovered that I really miss making those little poetry shorts. So I don't think I'm going to wait until next April to return to poetry shorts. I don't know that I can do a poetry short every single day, but I think I will sprinkle some little poetry shorts maybe throughout the weeks to come. It was a really fun series to do that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed picking the poems to read, and I enjoyed making the videos and hearing your reactions to them. So I don't think I'm going to wait until next April. Also this week, I read this volume of Naomi Shihab Nye's poetry, Everything Comes Next. I have a number of her books, but I read this one in its entirety this week in preparation for my Poetry Thursday episode that I did on Naomi Shihab Nye's life and work. This volume is really a collected works volume, and it contains poetry from all of her earlier volumes and covers really her entire career over the last 45 years. It's a really beautiful, beautiful volume that just came out in 2020, I believe. Also, this week I have attempted to make my my start in reading some horror for Horror Mayhem. I have said in a couple of videos that I am an absolute chicken at heart, and I'm kind of terrified of hardcore horror, and I'm worried about not being able to sleep at night. But MJ made some suggestions for me, and I'm taking her suggestions, and I'm also reading a few things that I found kind of by accident. I've been reading around, as I've talked in other videos about how I've been reading some science fiction of late, and that has led me to this book of Ray Bradbury's short stories. It's not his complete stories, but it is 100 of his most celebrated tales, and he also wrote an introduction to the volume. So I've been kind of playing around with this book and reading bits and pieces of his stories, and I came upon one by accident, not trying to read a horror story, and found that I was reading a little horror short story, and this one was called "The Whole Town's Sleeping," and it was a great little short story, and what it reminded me of was those kind of stories that we used to tell as kids, that would get spread around and often retold at slumber parties, or if ever there was a reason for kids to be together, in at night. The kind of story where somebody would be telling the story and they'd get to the punchline at the end, and everybody would end up screaming out loud. That's kind of what this story reminded me of. The Whole Town's Sleeping. And then I found also in this collection another story called At Midnight in the Month of June, which is kind of a companion piece to The Whole Town's Sleeping. Really, really good stuff. Big on suspense and on the fright factor, but not so much so that I won't sleep for the next week. And then I also picked up MJ's suggestion of a novel that she recommended. She said it's horror, but it will also make you laugh, and that's T. Kingfisher's novel A House with Good Bones. And MJ promised, she said, it will make you laugh, and truly from the first page of this book, there were a couple of things that made me laugh out loud. It's a short novel, and I'm pretty sure I'll be finished with this in a day or so, and I'll talk more about it later in the week when I have finished the novel. But for now, I can just tell you that it's the story so far of Samantha, or Sam, who is an archaeoentomologist, which is a person who studies insects at archaeological digs and sites. So she ends up coming back home from a job that has been sort of temporarily called off or held up. She ends up coming back home to North Carolina, where her mother is living in the family homestead, the home that had been owned by Samantha's grandmother. Right away, Samantha knows that something's up here. Something is not quite right. In the early pages of the novel, one of the first things she sees when she gets home is that there's a black vulture sitting on the mailbox in front of the home. An omen, perhaps. And then, she gets inside and she reunites with her mother, and it's very, very clear that there's something wrong, that something has changed very dramatically about her mother. And then the story begins to unfold. So I will tell you more about this as the week goes on. And then I'm also supporting Mental Health Awareness May. And I have started Jonathan Rosen's 2023, it's part memoir, part investigation. It says the subtitle is A Story of Friendship, Madness, and the Tragedy of Good Intentions. This is the story of Jonathan Rosen, the author. It's a story of his friendship with Michael Lauder. This was his best friend from childhood on. They went through school together. They went to college together at Yale. And then after college, Michael has a complete psychotic break. And he is diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. In a paranoid delusion, he murders his girlfriend. Rosen, through the story of his friendship with Michael and the tragic results of or the tragic outcomes of this mental illness, he also examines public policy and social attitudes toward mental illness and mental health care. The theme of mental health this year is self-care. And I think that while I'm going to continue reading this is a compelling story, I think that I'm going to do a little bit more of a search to find something more along the lines of self-care as an additional reading. This is a tough read, and this is a very, very dark story, and I think in the interest of my own self-care, I need to supplement this with something else. So that is my weekly wrap-up. I will be back again soon. I have a bunch of things planned for the coming week. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.